knowledge about the causes of learning dysfunction have been rapidly increasing over the past century. Groundbreaking work by Alexander Luria, a Russian neuropsychologist, established that several different areas of the brain interacted to perform complex mental operations such as reading, writing, and mathematics, and that individual brain areas play very specific roles during that operation. Psychologist Mark Rosenzweig of Berkeley found compelling evidence that demonstrated the theory of neuroplasticity, that nerve cell activity might produce changes in the function and structural wiring of the brain. By proving that the brain can be modified, the question arose, why should educators use compensation as if impairment were an unchangeable fact of life? The woman who combined the works of these two researchers into a program of treatment was Barbara Arrowsmith Young. What makes her case unique is that she herself suffered from several learning dysfunctions, but identified the mental capacities that were weak and then created exercises that strengthened those weak areas of the brain. Barbara has identified 19 specific learning dysfunctions which can be addressed by her program's methods. The school's work has shown that if weak areas of the brain are strengthened, the learning dysfunction will be reduced or removed.
A group of BC parents wants to bring it here.
And next year, Arrowsmith will be introduced in Vancouver.
A new program has just arrived in BC.
Is now available in BC.
Now, the Arrowsmith program has been launched in North Vancouver.
3 interested parents of boys and girls who had gone all through school trying to cope with certain learning disabilities came to talk to me about the same materials that had come over my desk. I'm grateful to the efforts of the individuals who I was working with. They convinced me that there needed to be something for these individuals.
They settle into the same tasks every day in a certain order. Some students working on computer programs, some students working on written programs, some students working on auditory programs, and then every 40 minutes they switch.
It is the most unbelievable feeling.
I stuck to it, and Arrowsmith really turned things around. Once I was through with my first year at Arrowsmith, I noticed many changes. I just took an English diagnostic exam. Now I'm at college level writing. And when I was younger, I couldn't even write like grade 5 level.
It's like you get everything.
Math is like, now.
It's scary and fantastic at the same time.
Instead of compensating by having to learn ways around his problem, you're actually strengthening the brain area so that the information is processed more efficiently.
Before it was like another language. It was like talking to me in French. Like I have no clue. And now it's easy for me.
His short-term memory works so that when he studies for an exam the night before, he wakes up in the morning, the information is still in there.
How do you put a price on something that has changed your life?
Hello, I'm Vicki Gabbro. Every year, thousands of kids are labeled learning disabled when actually they just learn differently. On the show today, you're going to meet really a remarkable woman who has become a guru for families and educators involved with children's learning problems. Her name is Barbara Arrowsmith Young. Her school is the Arrowsmith School. Her results are nothing short of spectacular. This is the Arrowsmith School in Toronto. Arrowsmith's unique method of dealing with learning disabilities helps smart kids like Dan. Saved, even, his parents might say. Dan used to act out a lot because he couldn't read or write. He had the language skills of a preschooler. But after 3 years at Arrowsmith, he's at the grade 4 level, and next year Dan will return to public school in grade 7.
I know, like, how to read better. I know I'm much better at my math, my English.
This is a handwriting sample of one of Arrowsmith's early students. In 15 months, he progressed from a juvenile scribble to a perfect script. Today, he's a venture capitalist. With success like this, word is spreading. Weary parents in many parts of Canada are pushing to get Arrowsmith techniques taught in public school systems across Canada.
The Toronto Catholic District School Board offers the classes free in 7 of its schools.
Hi, I'm Samantha Shatsky, and welcome to Body and Health. For children with learning disabilities, school can be a scary place. Not only do they struggle to understand what's being taught in the classroom, they're often teased for having trouble. But one unique school in Toronto is making a difference. The Arrowsmith school curriculum is designed to fire up the areas of a child's brain that were underperforming, and its methods are getting astonishing results. It sounds like it's literally working the brain as if it is a muscle, areas of the brain.
It is. I mean, it's not exactly like a muscle, because when we stop exercising, right, our muscles atrophy. What happens with this work is once the function is there and it's been stimulated, it starts to get its own exercise by being used in intellectual activities. And I've tracked people 20 years out of the program, and there's no drop-off of function. So it's better than a muscle.
Well, that's good. Mm-hmm. One thing I'd like to point out, children with learning disabilities are smart. You know, we tend to think that they're not.
They definitely are. I mean, the students that come to me, the whole definition of having a learning disability is that you're at least average in intellectual functioning or above, and a number of the students that I see are above average, and they've had to struggle, but they can't fully utilize their intelligence because of the blocks and the filters. But these are bright kids, and it's so exciting when you remove the deficit and they can go forward, they can function. I just had a student return to me. He's been at the program 2 years, and he's applied to Queen's in engineering and will probably get in, and is getting like 90s, 98s in his courses. And this is a student a few years ago that was reading at a grade 2 level. A lot of kids with learning disabilities don't dare to dream. They've just stopped dreaming. They have often no sense of a future for themselves, and that's very, very tragic.
You know, there were lots of people with learning disabilities who went on to be very successful. I'm thinking about Sir Winston Churchill and John Lennon. One of the greatest minds of the 20th century, Albert Einstein. Did you know he had dyslexia?
Some learning disabilities, you might think, are so profound that it's impossible for people who suffer from them to learn anything at all. But such is not the case. There are revolutionary new programs out there, starting at places like a school called Arrowsmith.
In the past, if someone came with a learning disability, you'd try to teach them to work around the weak area. So the weak area never got strengthened. Adjacent areas might get possibly strengthened. She isolates the weak area, strengthens it, so that what happens is people start to spontaneously be able to do the activities they couldn't before.
This is a picture of the brain reading out loud, and whenever you're doing an activity like reading, a number of brain areas come together to carry out that task. This area here is involved in the eye tracking as you're reading. This area down here, which is Broca's area, is involved in phonics and sounding out words. Because they're reading out loud, the lips are moving, so this is the kinesthetic, telling the lips where to go. This area back here is remembering the symbol pattern, the recognition, closing your eyes and being able to remember what the word actually looks like. And again, because they're reading out loud, these areas in here are hearing what the person is reading and remembering. It's auditory memory, memory for words, memory for phrases. These students are working on the motor symbol sequencing problem area. It's the area that affects the writing process, where they don't get the muscle memory for learning how to write and for symbol patterns. And they always cover their left eye because the right eye is talking to the brain area over here, which is involved in translating thought into the written process. So by covering the one eye, they're getting more stimulation and more exercise into that area, and it will improve their writing.
Barbara Arrowsmith Young is working on 19 brain areas, and it's really hard to design the exercises for these areas because you've got to really isolate them, and the exercises are sometimes quirky and odd and ingenious.
To work the visual memory for symbols, I want to just go in and work that area. So I use foreign languages because I don't want them to put sound to it, which would be another area. I don't want them to put meaning to it, which would be another area. As much as possible, I want to isolate the specific area and exercise that area exclusively. I think it was in a different... Oh,
some of the kids right now. This is Stuart. And Stuart, I want to know what you're working on. What are you doing here?
I'm doing Arthic.
What is that?
It is, like, it helps me with, I can't really see what's on people's faces and stuff, so it helps me socially and stuff to make friends.
So you take a look at this.
And reading and stuff.
And you make up a story here?
Yeah, well, I look at the picture, and I see what's going on in the picture, and then I write down what I think is going on. Salt, ale, man, rain, will.
It's the first in a two-part series about a school that promotes mental Olympic training for youngsters with learning disabilities. You are watching CBC Canada Now.
Currently, I have programs for 19 different areas, and I'm clear that's not everything related to learning. It's just where my work is today, but there are different exercises for each one, and I also believe they're different vehicles or different windows into the area. These are just the ones that I've developed at this point. The power of this kind of work, and there's some other programs that do similar kind of work, is that it's the whole capacity for learning in the area changes. So if you're working on visual memory, it's not that just the child is getting better at spelling, but if they're looking at a chemical equation, they can visually memorize it. Like the whole range of that function changes. And I mean, to me, that's the power of the work.
In math before, I wasn't really working at my grade level, but I saw in my report card that now I'm working at like a grade 5 level for math, which is good. So, I've improved a lot in practically everything.
His parents say they were skeptical at first, but they say they can't dispute the changes, including those in Jeffrey's demeanor.
We're so pleased with it. His attitude changed overnight, and we kept on thinking, okay, is it going to last? Is it real? And it has. I mean, he's a new boy. He's happy. He laughs.
He would have been a D, a C student, would have struggled, and would have been difficult for him. And he would have really got to a passion where school gets a little more challenging, as we all know, as we move along. Would have been a very difficult place for him to be.
For a generation now, children have been making their way to Toronto's Arrowsmith School to take part in a program that its creator has called Mental Olympic Training. Their exercise is done over and over again, ultimately to target and strengthen parts of the brain that are considered weak.
Sure, they might have put him in smaller classes or tried to give him assistance, but they didn't know how to deal with the problem. They were just guiding it along, but not focusing on the problem. And that's what Arrowsmith knows how to do.